Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to a shortish video on a playthrough I did as Britain here. Trying to get the standard of living as high as possible, which, if you see in the top left corner here, has been a little successful. I was kind of doing this project on the side before we do more of our Ottoman Empire Let's Play. Just trying to see how high I could get this number, and it turns out really, really high. We have a very red world, and not in a communist way. I managed to get a lucky pull for the Russian Republic near the end of the game around the 1920s, where they had a very small socialist revolt, and I just kind of turned it into a subject. It's a presidential autocratic republic with cooperative ownership, but I'm pretty sure Britain owns half the buildings here, so... Yeah. Yeah, in some cases we just own the economy in various states. Yeah, like here, we just own all of that. 99.3%, 71% Rostov, 57%. Dorpat, 97.5% is just owned by people in Britain. Because, yeah, what I basically did here is I made it to where I have as few states as possible as Britain. We have these six states up here in England, so going up from the home counties, West County, all the way to Lancashire, Yorkshire. We gave Wales, Scotland, and Ireland some autonomy. They are puppets, but they're independent puppets. Well, they run their own affairs. We do have Malta released as well. There are certain ones like Gibraltar that I couldn't get rid of because I can't release it as its own thing, and I couldn't give it away to any of my subjects. And then we did keep the South Atlantic Islands here because they are actually considered an English homeland, and I figured, why not then? Because almost everyone here is English. Anyone who isn't will convert, or they're Scottish. I did forget to give away British Guatemala, though, so that is kind of bringing down the standard of living average a little, because it is at 23. But there's not much I can do about that because I am in the middle of a revolt right now. I could piece it out really quick and see. Actually, you know what? This game is over. It's at 1936, but on January 2nd instead of January 1st. Because the sound was broken when I loaded up the game on January 1st. So I needed to let a day tick by in order to change things over there. So let me just do that really quick. Grant them the state. Take over to the next week really quickly here. No, we're still at 36.3. I don't think they had a lot of people to kind of weigh it there in the end. But now it's a unified Guatemala, so that's neat. It's mostly unified. No, it is actually fully unified Guatemala, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Cool. Anyway, people are filthy rich. Let me just show you what our professions look like. Almost 30% of the population are clerks. Then there are machinists, shopkeepers, engineers, and then laborers. Laborers are the 5th largest pop group here, with 4.58% of the population being capitalists, and another 1.04 being aristocrats, meaning the upper strata makes up about 5.62% of my entire population. Their numbers have been growing along with the middle strata, but if we go to the lower strata, you can see that they have actually stagnated over the last few decades. Their population is actually stagnated. Because we've done so much automation here, we don't even have enough people for jobs because everyone's so rich, the pop growth is super low. Even with level 5 public health care. We have automated these to their fullest extent. This only has 15,000 laborers in it. It has as many laborers as it does engineers in this textile, using maximized automation and maximized base production, using lots of electricity. I've even done something unusual that I usually don't do. I am actually using oil in the power plants. And the reason why they're being heavily subsidized is because their wages just collapse if they're not subsidized. Which, yes, if you're curious at all, you might have noticed it, there are no taxes. We are paying all of this out of pocket from our subjects. All of it is from our subjects. We're even giving some money back to our largest ones, including Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. So I honestly could remove the reduced payments if I really wanted to, and we could be running a balanced budget right now, easily. We do have a bit of a negative convoys because I just gave away some of the ports here in Guatemala. But if I was going to ever fix that, I would have just gone into the power block, changed advanced research over to transport infrastructure. 20% more convoys, which if I were to do that, suddenly I have an extra 16,000 convoys. Because that's all being used by port connections, which is basically the more the more GDP you have that's overseas away from your market capital, the more convoys you need. So if you're playing someone like Germany, France, Russia, you're not going to notice that as much. If you're playing as Britain, though, you're definitely going to notice that. You're definitely going to notice your port connections as time goes on. And our collective block GDP is 2.7 billion. So while our own GDP is not anything impressive at 362 million, if you take in all of our subjects, all of our members, Canada has over 400 million. The Raj is over 300 million. Russia over 200. British East Africa, a colony in Africa, has 184 million GDP, largely thanks to its mining and tea production, because all those extremely wealthy British English people in Britain just have to have their tea. In fact, how much are we consuming over here? The home counties alone is consuming 10,000. Oh my god. Oh, yeah, because the home counties, fun fact here, the home counties, 7.41% of its population are just capitalists. There are almost more capitalists in the home counties than there are engineers. Which is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. I don't know why, but my workforce ratio averages are in the 30s when I've got it up to 45% as the maximum. I think it's just because what's happening is the African cultures that migrated here are getting to cultural erasure, and then they're assimilating and it's dropping it down, is my guess. I'm not sure if that's actually accurate. We also have some fun areas, like Wales actually became a cooperative ownership, and it was actually able to build itself up so well that I think we don't even own that much. Yeah, we only own about 14% of the GDP in Wales, about 30% of Scotland, about 30 to 40% of Ireland. So for all intents and purposes, they did very well on their own with some investment. Although most of the Welsh coal mines are owned by our company for coal mining. And they have their own coal mining company too, so it's actually producing quite a bit. Speaking of funny companies, Canada, for whatever reason, decided to just go into steel. And you know what? It worked out way too well. The state of Southern Colombia, most of it, allegedly, the percentage numbers here are off, but allegedly most of their GDP from this is just steel. They're just producing steel, which is then being used by the wider empire to make cars, tools, construction, shipyards. We tore up the Confederation here. North Germany kind of got torn apart. The Confederation of the Rhine exists. Roman Republic. I even took the Sinai, built the canal, and then gave it to Turkey when they were a subject. All to just minimize how much direct territory we controlled. I've even gotten Persia to start using pump jacks, because for places like Persia, I just kept sharing knowledge for as long as I could. Same with the British Raj, just to eventually get them to use pump jacks, and apparently it's gone so well, we have literally crashed the price of opium. The only reason I wasn't shipping a lot of opium to Qing here is because we didn't have the convoys. But now that we do have the convoys, it's gonna grow a lot. It's gonna grow a lot. This has been something very special. As you can see here, the Russian Republic around 1912 here, that's when they became our subject. This is when the Civil War ends, and they just grow because of all the construction we're doing. All of this construction, I almost tripled my construction when I got Russia as a subject. Although I probably should have grown it sooner so that we could have grown the Raj sooner. The Raj has been kind of on a population decline. It's been declining because I'm pretty sure it's happening. Although it's a newly initialized game, so it's hard to track it. I'm pretty sure what's happening is, yeah, they're migrating to places like Canada because Canada has... Actually, Canada has national supremacy. I don't know what they're doing. It could be because the British Raj has multiculturalism, so it could be that certain English pops here are being assimilated by some of the local population that cross-migrated, and then they might be migrating over here to Canada. There's about 31 million English people in the world, and of that, 44.5 million live in the British Republic. And the global standard of living for the English, for an English-speaking pop, really just an English pop, is 34.7. If you're an English person right now, you're just living an affluent life, and if you're not affluent, you're living a pretty prosperous life just underneath that line. but you're probably living an affluent life, unless you're in the Congo, apparently. But, well, you know, the Congo has not gotten into worker protections yet, I guess. I don't know. They're not doing as great, but they control a lot. If this game went on, I was going to take French Niger from them, rip that out, probably just assimilate it into Senegal and the Congo here. Even the Cape Colony is doing okay. I mean, for the Cape Colony, getting double-digit GDP here is not bad. The Cape Colony usually just suffers and does nothing. I do have a few power block members that I haven't been able to subjugate because the cohesion just isn't going above 50% right now, that are doing very well for themselves too. We actually have the top 10 standard of living is all at 20 or higher. Let's see, I think Niger is not in our... Yeah, Niger is actually on its own. To be fair, they're probably doing that usual bug with government facilities, yeah. But I think everyone else on this is actually in our power block. Wales, Orange, the Confederation of the Rhine. El Salvador is actually in the French... No, they're in the US power block. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. We have the Ruhr, which is actually in our power block. It's just a protectorate. Scotland, Los Altos, which is in the US as a puppet. And then Sweden is actually in our power block, but same circumstance. The cohesion is not above 50. So I haven't been able to subjugate them because we actually have 4 independent block members. With enough time, I could actually do that. I would just have to get the Roman Republic to go down a bit here. Which the simplest solution would just be to exempt them from service and then maybe give them some of their money back, because they're still running traditionalism and land-based taxation. They're not doing very well, but we could probably force them into changing it if we continued this. I don't think I will, but I am curious to how high I get this. But a lot of that is basically trying to get as many of your pops to be in financial districts as possible, because even the clerks here, with some standard of living bonuses, are almost practically living wealthy lives. Some of these are doing better than others. You do actually have some clerks here who are 2 points away from that wealthy position, to the point where their clothing consumption is very low. It makes up almost none of their expenditure. The issue that's actually holding back the standard of living, where it could be even higher, is services. Honest to God, it is services. Everyone is at 26% or higher on the average. For 2 reasons. First off, the urban centers are struggling to find employment despite being automated as much as possible. But also, the service expenditures are just through the roof. Except for East Anglia, just because it didn't get as many of the financial districts and the companies. Because in here, I mean, capitalists still make up 2.35% of the population. But it is doing better by comparison, and that's while not being fully employed, technically. I am even using decrees as well to bolster the service industry. It is bolstering manufacturing as well, which might be why they keep wanting to build manufacturing here. But the vast majority of government or private construction these days is overseas. It's in Canada, it's in Russia, it's all the way in India, it's in Africa. By the way, I did get the company that makes plantations for opium and tea because, you know, colonized Kenya, and I wanted to make sure we had lots of tea. What better way to do that than to give it an extra 36% productivity increase? Why do you think we have so much tea? How much production is in Africa, actually? Yeah, British East Africa is making a ton. The Congo's making some as well. And then if you go over here, the Raj has just been turned into a massive tea plantation. I don't know what to say. It's absolutely beautiful. Tea is cheap. And the Raj is not doing too bad. You can see it did have its mutiny. A lot of the subjects did kind of break away, and we never fully reclaimed them. It does have the occasional revolts now and then, because the anarchists and fascists are both threatening to revolt, and only one of them supported multiculturalism. But after we got multiculturalism, it got a lot calmer. It's not as violent. Jing is actually doing okay. They actually decided to not do the opium war this game. They just gave up and kept eating their opium. In fact, I didn't realize this, but apparently there is a Han mass migration to Zanzibar. Interesting. I don't know how long that's been going on for, because there's not a lot of pops here, but it could just be that the community didn't form until recently. It could also just be an infrastructure thing. Or, more likely, they're not migrating from Qing, they're migrating from somewhere else that has Han pops, like Russia. Because Russia should have yeah, they have a Han population here. So that's probably where it is. We even have Japan, because again, they had a civil war, so we assimilated them into the economy. And around this point here, where they suddenly start skyrocketing upwards, that is when they join our market. That is when they are subject and the civil war ends, and we start investing into them. Which, you know, turned out pretty well. Although, unless you're in, like, Canada, Wales, or Britain, according to the map, your life is pretty bad. And the US had its usual civil war with the Confederacy. Surprisingly, they were able to keep together. The Confederacy was actually in our power block for a time, but they always stayed as a major power, so I was never able to subjugate them and finalize that. I don't know what happened in South America. Somehow Chile and Argentina just got destroyed at some point by the local natives and just pushed back. Bolivia was torn apart. Peru has just been split. Brazil's just been kind of enjoying its own little thing. I think we did invest into them. Yeah, we did have some investment before they canceled it. Colombia also kind of collapsed. I don't know why Santo Domingo owns so much of it. I can only assume it was a cultural revolt. Cuba's independent. There's actually 2 Cubas. It's really confusing. And then we did a few things as well. Jamaica was released at GameStart as a subject, and we just kind of gave them all of our holdings over here. And then we just left them alone. An occasional revolt would happen, we'd put it down. Spain did do some wars against us, so eventually Galicia was taken. We just had Portugal take it. So Austria has Serbia because Turkey just suffered all game, as you can tell. Poland was actually able to liberate itself, and then a North German revolt liberated itself, and then there was another revolt. So there's 2 Prussias, a Poland, and a North German Federation. It's confusing. Germany's just a hot mess. And it's probably going to stay a hot mess. Albania actually has 2 states, which is just funny, because one of those is a Serbian state. Greece tried to realize its greater ambitions, and it just never happened. God, what else is there to show off? Maybe the fact that oil is expensive. I tried to make the oil company my 6th company, which is why I have an open company slot. And for the life of me, despite it being oil, I could not get my investment pool to buy this oil rig. I think productivity is just through the roof so hard that they no longer care. The companies are just building so much of the construction, and then the other constructions are building in places like Canada for the explosive factories. I don't think they care anymore. They don't want to buy buildings, they just want to mass produce buildings. Because I am running this on laissez-faire myself, to just make sure everything's always being sold. And what is another curious thing, really quickly, what is our food security like? Yeah, 44% of basic food need is met by groceries, which is, what is starving? Oh, the Shandong Solomon Islands, so we're just gonna ignore that. But yeah, there's a 35,000 demand for automobiles. It is just a beautiful thing. We just don't run out of rubber. We're using rubber for tools, we're using rubber for textiles, for luxury clothes. It's just absolutely beautiful. The average wage in this textile mill is 46. I wonder, actually, really quickly, I really should test it maybe on just off screen. I am wondering if having worker protections for the 75% minimum wage would increase the average wage in the end. Because if we look here, if you're looking at, like, the Dixie Protestants are being paid 15 instead of 23, your full bay, all of your African and Asian pops are being paid about a wage of 8 right here. So if we enforce minimum wage, in theory, what is the average annual wage? It would be 75% of that. So the normal wage is 17.4. So yeah, if I invoked minimum wage, it would actually force their minimum wage up, which ironically would slightly improve our standard of living. But as you can see here, English bureaucrats are just living the life. Even without standard of living modifiers, they're wealthy. They don't buy regular clothes anymore. They just buy luxuries and all the good stuff. If we go here, it's services, luxuries, free movement, luxuries, communication, luxuries, leisure. Household items are still something they buy until they reach a natural wealth of 45. Right now they're at 41 plus 3 for modifiers. But as you can see, they never stop buying intoxicants. They never stop buying heating. it just becomes such a minimal requirement. I don't know how it goes for their increasing standard of living, because this is 367,000 pops with 31% working. It grows so small, though. It grows so small. If I didn't have the healthcare system and food standardization, we might actually be shrinking in population from becoming overpopulated. And the literacy rate, obviously. But as you can see here, services are just such a massive expenditure that their standard of living struggles. If it wasn't so high, although at this point I'd probably need a mod for that, if it wasn't so high, our standard of living would be higher. I was hoping to make this reach 40 even with modifiers, but even without modifiers, this is still a 33 average standard of living. Like, everyone here is affluent if you're English or Scottish, because I don't know if you noticed when I was going through my laws here, maybe I didn't go through them. We are running an ethno-state with freedom of conscience. Technically, with state of religion, I could bump up the wages by another 5%, but I wasn't certain how that was going to go over. And technically, state-run churches, not state-run churches, but the forced employment of the clergy in the government administration wouldn't have been great, because the clergy are paid less in wages than bureaucrats. And this does change them from bureaucrats to clergy, so they actually would have had a lower standard of living. For the clergymen themselves, that is. That's why I didn't want to do state religion, but I kept freedom of conscience because the Anglican Church does usually give you a work ethic bonus for the company throughput, although at the moment they are upset because of the political lobby with the Friendship Committee, and then I suppressed the lobbyists at some point because I wasn't paying attention anymore. Because the Confederacy became really upset with us, they broke agreements with us, and all that stuff. I'm not going to continue on that, but I just wanted to show it off. Transportation is hilariously expensive. It is on the verge of causing shortages, but I had to get the automation going. And another thing, my logging camps are just devoid of workers. I don't even know why I keep them around anymore. No one wants to work in a logging camp, to the point where I haven't even used the automation because I don't know if it would be profitable. Apparently, in a case right now, it would be. Oh man, chainsaws still suffer. I don't know why. It's something about the difference. I think it's because it adds jobs. But yeah, the logging camps in Britain are just devoid of workers. You've got a couple people working around, which I can only assume are logging enthusiasts who just love to cut trees down. Like, that is their passion in life, so that's why they've taken the job. Even though no one else will. You've got motor industries. This has just been an absolutely beautiful run. And I wanted to do it right here at the very end of 1936, because this is basically, if you play the game, you could get this done. This isn't like playing past 1936 or something. We're only on January 2nd at the start of the video because, again, the sound broke, and then January 4th because I was messing around with Guatemala over there. The fact that opium is at minus 72% price, and I have not had like a mass spike in opium obsessions, just doesn't feel right. I just have to check really quick. The Hinduistans apparently have an obsession with coffee. I don't think any obsessions, they're atheist, actually happened. Obsessions have been happening more often in the game in 1.8, which is great, but I'm still not noticing them that often. Although I would love for them to happen. Oh, okay, there we go. The Turkish got obsessed with sugar, so yeah, you know. That's technically an obsession. That counts. I didn't specify a culture there. Yeah, the Hinduistani apparently became obsessed with coffee. I don't think they're obsessed with it at the start. I may have to check that later. But I'm pretty certain. The Bahiri have a liquor obsession. Bengali got nothing, so that's unfortunate. What about the Japanese? Just out of curiosity. Nothing. Yeah, so obsessions are happening more often in 1.8, but there's still instances where they don't happen for a cultural game. But there are instances I've had where I'm playing the US and the Dixie get obsessed with liquor about 2 weeks in. It's like, what? So you never know. Obsessions might change your game. They might do nothing. But my god, that is some of the cheapest opium I have ever seen. And cheap fabric, too, because... oh, right, Lombardi makes 20,000. Is it just cotton? It's just cotton here. It's just cotton. Oh, with the Sicilian Fabric Consortium. It's like the one time I wouldn't nationalize it just because it's giving that productivity bonus. They have the cotton gin. They have 40% throughput here. Wait, do they have a resource decree here? They have an agriculture decree. Can I stack that? I've always been curious about this. Can I stack my resource decree with their resource decree? Because I have authority I haven't used. No, so if they already have a decree in effect, I actually can't stack it. Interesting. I was actually wondering about that, if you could stack decrees like that or not. Does mean that, yeah, I could be stacking resource decrees in various areas because we have over 4,000 authority. Because we have so much authority from subjects, and then we get 90% more from all of these modifiers. So, yeah, we have authority for days, and I ended up not using 800 of it like a wasteful person. Because a certain movement is getting very buffed to make sure certain people are in charge indefinitely, while everyone else gets the boot. Fun small fact, by the way, before we end this. I did actually get a random event through the fascist journal entry that allows you to make it to where this movement only produces fascists, and no longer produces the corporatist. Granted, corporatists can still show up, they're just less likely because there isn't as much pressure. As you can see here, they have a 53% chance for the petite bourgeoisie. The Englishman church is at 95. Oh my god. Oh my god. What about the industrialists, the only sane people who were led by a radical? The trade union as well, 46. Like, there's no communists here. There's no socialists here. There is only a single ideology that is pervasively taking over the Britain right now. Oh, that's why it's so high. Yeah, that's a lot of movement pressure. Every interest group is affected by this. I think every interest group has fascists as the highest chance. No, the landed gentry have ethno-nationalists as their highest. Okay. But then the ruled folk don't really exist because I don't know if you've noticed, but not a lot of people like to farm. We actually have more peasants than we do farmers, which is outrageous. Which, yes, that does mean our farms have practically no one working in them as well. With full automation, chemical fertilizers, no one wants to be a farmer. If they want to be a farmer, they go off to Munster here, which apparently also has lots of alcohol, I'm told. A lot of our grain is probably overseas as well. Yeah, Kansai, Tohoku. I might be mispronouncing some of these. Kanto, Kyushu. Surprisingly, a lot of this... I don't know why Japan is being both a land of tea and a land of breadbasket, and apparently the occasional silk plantation. I didn't build any of this. This is just what my pops invested into. They actually have chemical fertilizers. I'm impressed, Japan. Really, I am. I'm impressed at how far Japan got. Yeah, alright. Anyway, I think we're kind of reaching our 30-minute point here. I don't want to keep this going for too long. But yeah, this has been fun. I actually kind of want to try this now as another country like the US or maybe Russia. Although I don't know if releasing all of the subjects at Game Starter as Russia will be great, because their technology will be behind. But it could be fun. It could be fun like this, because I released Wales, Ireland, and Scotland at the start. This was just all I had for Britain's mainland, not counting any colonies I did. And I managed to just kind of keep hold of everyone despite the limitations to my army size. So thank you all for watching. I hope this was funny to you to see an extremely filthy, wealthy Britain. Which honestly, who is our wealthiest pop? Some Australians and Anglo-Canadians over 70 at opulence. And then our largest ones are affluent. That is ridiculous. I can't. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Here are some extremely wealthy capitalist pops for you doing nothing but counting their money. And I will see you all next time when we continue our Ottoman playthrough. Until then.